Hello, my name is Philippe Cloutier, President and CEO of Cartier Resources, with the ticker symbol ECR listed on the Toronto Stock Ventures Exchange. Cartier Resources explores in the Quebec portion of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, namely in two areas, the what is now known as the Windfall Emerging Mining District, and with a flagship asset also on the Larder Lake Cadillac Fault, which is our flagship and the one that's working towards a PEA.
Thank you. Good introduction. Good to meet you for the first time. How are you?
I'm very fine, and you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Now, you've had a number of meetings. You've done a number of interviews with Matt, haven't you, over the past months, year perhaps. Could you just give us a kind of? You put out some news on Friday. Drilling from Benoit, but can you just perhaps before we get into that, could you give us a kind of an overview of where you've the year so far and where you got to? And first of all, let's see what you've done, and then we'll go on to about what happens next.
Absolutely. 2021, what we started the year by delivering a maiden resource estimate on the Benoit property, and then moved into a diamond drill program. We also delivered a third resource estimate on our flagship Chimo Mine project, where we chalked up 2 million ounces in the indicated and inferred category. And throughout all of that, we were also working on internal engineering studies on that Chimo Mine project to get us to the PA level. Then we also acquired 100% of the Fenton deposit, which we had until then currently shared with the government, 50-50. And then we also were able to deliver two joint ventures, one on our Dolier gold project just south of Chibougamau, and one on our Wilson gold project in the Urbain-Barry Belt. So it's been a quite busy year for us, drilling, resource estimates, joint ventures, and we're wrapping it up this year by launching yet another diamond drill program on the newly acquired Fenton project, and advancing on the PEA that should be delivered in Q1 2022. So that's a broad overview.
Great, thank you very much. I didn't realize you're going to be drilling Fenton this year. So are you going to be able to start drilling Fenton this year, or are you going to go into
No,
next year?
we're actually, we've done the line cutting, we've done the orientation geophysics, and once we get those results, we'll be drilling maybe February. Hopefully by February 2022. And as the press release, and that was a press release on Monday, the one on Friday was about Benoit results. All in all, we had started the year with a 30,000 meter diamond drill program, and it was quite difficult and slow progress. The deposit itself, the maiden resource estimate that we put out, is underneath a lake. And so and we had two diamond drill crews, one traditional diamond drilling crew, and then one directional driller crew. And the holes had to be drilled from the side of the lake, and therefore the engineering of those holes, which we thought would go quite well, is a bit more difficult. For instance, the Fenton program will be 200 meter holes, 250 meter holes. Well, when you're doing 1,500 meter hole, as we just did on Benoit, we actually did two, that the first 200 or 300 meters are crucial. And so it was a lot more slower, a lot more complex. We built a camp on the Benoit site by the lake that was, I'd like to say, COVID proof. We had strict protocols. We didn't want the drillers going in and out of town. We also built a temporary telecommunications tower because we had to have all the directional drilling or the orientation surveys in the hole relayed to our office here in Val d'Or so that we could do real-time decision-making to have the directional drillers go into the hole and turn the hole. So all in all, it was complex drilling, a lot slower than we anticipated, a bit more expensive. However, we did see what we wanted to see. The system beneath the Benoit deposit is there. A lot of sulfide stringers and alteration. However, the grades that we had at surface, we could not repeat at depth. So
a classic technical success.
Oh yeah, the technical success for sure, because, well, part of the program was to make sure that what was seen at surface had legs and continued at depth. and therefore would motivate us to do the eastern and western geophysical anomalies. So yeah, really sexy looking rock. Unfortunately, ubiquitous, very low smoke screen of low grade gold. And that was quite disappointing. The consolation is that it's still wide open. There was historically, we had delineated over 108 geophysical anomalies, and we barely tested 3. So,
A couple of quick questions about that. How many holes did you drill? How many pilot holes and how many kind of daughter holes?
We drilled 17 drill holes in total on the project, 2 pilot holes, and of those 2 pilot holes, 11 branches. Okay. And that covered a swath that was 350 meters in strike length below the deposit, in two crosscuts beneath that extension. The one, the deepest one, reaching 1,300 meters at depth. And we were still seeing the stringer sulfides, but mostly pyrite. And what we had seen in 2014 was, a higher component of chalcopyrite in the stringers. And we had determined with a bunch of thin section studies and XRF that, the chalcopyrite is responsible for concentrating the gold, or its presence.
It's associated.
Yeah. And so, mid-August, we were sort of suspecting that, even though it's slow drilling, we like what we see, but we don't think this is going to be high grade. And so we kept at it, and we were able to cut down from 30,000 meters to 17,000 meters, and hence the leftover budget to go on to the next deposit, which was Fenton.
Got it. So it's so disappointing, isn't it, when you put everything together?
It is disappointing, Merlin, but in our business, if you fall in love with a project and you become stubborn and you just keep plugging away at it and not reading the signs properly. I think what we're going to do now with Benoit is we're going to wait for the balance of the assays, because we do have assays coming in. We're going to step back, look at it, and find an alternative for this. But suffice to say, we still have $6.3 million in the bank. 2.5 of that is earmarked for the Fenton program, which is going to be about 40 holes. A totally different dynamic, right? Because the Fenton deposit outcrops at surface. Lessons learned from the Benoit project will be employed, moving forward and growing the company.
Exploration is a statistics game in many ways. Mm-hmm. I think the statistics on exploration targets in Canada and Australia at the moment is 1 in 2,700 targets actually delivers. Benoit is adding to that statistical set, that data set.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's all about identifying the right endowment. And in our case, all 4 of our projects are projects that have high grade gold intersections within broad. And when I mean broad, I mean 20 to 30 to 40 meter wide mineralized and alteration zones. Something that where you could rapidly build ounces should the system continue to develop at depth. So once you have the endowment, engineer your program to test if this thing could grow, and then rapidly see if it can, and cut bait if it doesn't evolve. On Chimo, we were quite successful. We went from 0 to 2 million ounces in 3 years.
Before we get on to Chimo, can we just talk quickly about Fenton? What's the target there, and what are you hoping to, what would constitute success in a drill hole there?
Okay, on Fenton, until recently, we were not operators of the project. So we acquired the project 100% in April. From there, we repatriated all the historical data, had a look at it in the context of the expertise we developed at Chimo and the recent experience at Benoit. And then we started to engineer a program that would respect the endowment that's present at Fenton. What we have at Fenton is widespread dissemination and almost massive sulfides in some localities in basalt. And there's a very strong silica component associated to that. And the zones can be up to 20 or 30 meters wide. And the grades, the higher grades that we're reaching are like 40 to 50 grams per ton over 2 to 3 and maybe sometimes 5 meters within broader intersections that grade 3 to 4 grams over 27 to 30 meters. So we have a very interesting situation. The mineralization outcrops at surface, so we could eyeball it and understand it, and understand the characteristics and the true target. So the geophysics that we're currently doing is designed to actually find at depth what is seen at surface. And that's why we've reverted back to EM, infinitem, deep EM methods with various loops to couple the sulfide plates properly.
This is in the it's in the greenstone belt, is it? So it's kind of bimodal or kind of sediments and volcanics kind of alternating. It's a mixed package, and you're specifically focused on a basalt package.
Exactly. Well, the mineralized, the historic mineralized occurrence occurs entirely within the basalts. The project itself is surrounded by the Monster Lake deposit, the Windfall Lake deposit to the south, the operating Bachelor mine to the west. And it's crisscrossed by a mess of forestry roads, and so there's infrastructure present. It is a lot more remote than the Chimo project, but I mean, we're looking at a situation where, well, the guys are out there this week and they're spotting, they're spotting the drill hole access roads, and they've just finished a channel sampling program, and then, from the channel sample results, from the geophysical results, we're going to complete the engineering of the program and hopefully get out there in February. And like I say, it's going to be quite unlike what we've done in the past 4 years, namely on Benoit and Chimo, because very short holes. So, once the hole is launched, I mean, you don't really have to over-engineer it. I mean, it's going to cross the target within a day or two shift, right? So,
is it focused on structure, and do the deposits that are nearby, are they also structure and basalt, or what's the how is the local mineralization kind of manifest?
Well, basically it's hydrothermal sulfide deposition with silica. There is an obvious longitudinal, possibly shear hosted component, but the higher grade mineralization also occurs where they're cross-cutting almost at right angle structures. And these things develop as, very tight chutes or cylinders. And so arguably we're seeing really high grades, and then you'll step out 15 meters and then that thing drops off. So we have to have a global picture. And our main concern is identifying the target where we could generate ounces rapidly, ounces per vertical meter. We're not going to chase something down just because
going down.
Exactly. Well, if you have a whole bunch of these pencils concentrated, you could develop volume. What is also of concern is we were able, when we acquired the project, to add 5 claims to the northeast, where there is a drill indicated showing of 356 grams per ton, and that wasn't followed up a lot. So we have a very exciting year ahead of us, advancing on Fenton, shallow dynamic drilling, and hopefully, obviously, we're going to be a lot more. We're going to generate a lot more news flow on Fenton than we generated on Benoit. Lesson learned there, and we're parallel to that. Well, obviously, there's going to be a conclusion for the PEA that we're running on Chimo.
Before we leave Chimo, sorry, before we leave Fenton, I'm afraid I've got one last question. Is it a highly deformed area? I mean, are these plunging chutes, are they the intersection of kind of two relatively undeformed planes, or is it a folded package which has then been folded and got I mean, are you in a mature Arcane terrain? I mean, are these?
We're in the mature Arcane terrain. It's been overturned. We're seeing some transposition and some parasitic folding. But the controls are relatively obvious. It's from what we're seeing in the mag, what we're seeing in the core and at surface, these agglomerated pencil-shaped cylinders are controlled by a longitudinal deposition of sulfides where it is cross-cut by a cross-cutting feature. structure.
Great. And the surface expression of the kind of the main Fenton anomaly is, can you give me rough dimensions?
Well, it is actually seen as sulfide bearing. There's 3 corridors. They're actually seen over 3 kilometers long. It is currently exposed at surface through many trenches over 350 meters long. And so on either side of the surface expression or the surface trenching, there's very little diamond drilling or trenching done. And yet there are prominent geophysical anomalies, and there are a few outcrops where we were getting grabs of, in the order of 40 to 50 grams per ton. We've only recently pieced together all the historical information with the Cartier signature, filters. And so we're quite excited about the new geo program.
Just can you give me kind of not perhaps the best trench sample you've got, but kind of an average or kind of a good trench across, what are you looking at? You're looking at 20 meters at 2 grams or 30 meters at 1 gram? Or
2 to 3.5 grams over 27 to 33 meters are stuff we're seeing. And within that, you're getting higher grade sections of 40-ish grams over 2 to 4 meters. But we're reaching in several areas metal factors of around 200. That's quite impressive.
Yeah. No, those are walk-up drill targets. That's fantastic. And any worries on the metallurgy in the area? Are there any metallurgical challenges in the operations?
In the area of what I know, there are no metallurgical challenges, but those are things that we will be looking at early in the drill program. It's not a costly item to send a sample out to see if there are any deleterious elements, but there are none, to my knowledge, that are historically reported.
Great. That looks like a really good exploration target, and I wish you luck with the drilling on that.
Thank you very much.
Let's go on to Chimo.
Please, let's do, because I think we've worked very hard on that project for the last 3.5 years. We initiated drilling in 2017. We delivered 3 resource estimates. The past production at Chimo is about 400,000 ounces. And there is a wealth of information, over 4,000 drill holes, 60,000 assays, and a lot of the old mine workings and maps that we have. So we were able to develop a very robust drill program that we engineered, and we tested over 27 gold zones in the last 3 years, and ended up focusing only on 3 to essentially deliver the resource estimate. But that just goes to say that there's a lot of upside potential on the other zones. We felt that if we wanted to build ounces rapidly, we better focus on the ones that were obviously that had higher volume potential in the immediate. And so we did that. And in May of this year, March of this year, we delivered the 3rd resource estimate, 2 million ounces, 600 or 700,000 indicated, and 1.3 in the inferred. But all of those resources are within 500 meters of the existing shaft and underground drifts. And since we had a lot of information or geostatistical behavior of the past producing stopes, while the resource estimate people felt that they could come up with some very robust metrics and algorithms to define the stopes that we're now that some of our in-house engineering, was all about. And so while we were running the resource estimate work, we were also doing internal engineering studies. Namely, there were 3 independent projects. The first one was shaft haulage capacity. When this mine was shut down in 1997, they were hauling, I think, 1,200 tons per day. But the issue was, well, Phil, if you want to generate a lot of ounces per year, can your shaft take, in the vicinity of 5 to 6 or 7,000 tons per day? And that study demonstrated that the shaft can. Then we ran ore sorting studies. All right.
Before we get into this, can I just ask, what are the grades of the two categories? So the indicated. Remind me of the grade of the indicated category.
The indicated is in the vicinity of, reading it off here,
3.2?
3.21. Yeah, 3.2.
And the inferred
grams per ton.
2.7?
The inferred is 2.7. So there's an average grade of 2.9.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to remind you that along the highway, Goldex currently with Agnico Eagle, they're mining 1.5 grams per ton at 1.5 kilometer depth. And there's another example, Young Davidson by Alamos, that they're mining, their cutoff grade is going to be 1.7, and they're going to be mining 2.7 underground at 1.5 kilometers on their Young Davidson mine.
And the depth of the Chima resources is between what and what?
From surface to kilometer depth, down to the bottom of the shaft.
So it's about, let me just do the maths here. So it's about 180,000 ounces per vertical kilometer.
Well, there's past production of 400,000 ounces. Add 2 million ounces, so you're looking at a system of 2.4 million ounces over a 1 kilometer column. So rough rule of thumb, 2,400 ounces per vertical meter.
And it's gonna come down, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how the other mines in the area are working it, but it's going to come down to your cost per ton, because if you know what thanks to the data that we've got, the
rock mechanics, metallurgy, behavior of the stope designs and stuff, that is a lot of things are being considered within the current PEA. We have all we're very fortunate to have picked up the project with all the historical mine maps, metallurgical reports, rock mechanic reports, and production reports. That is being considered in the current PEA right now.
I didn't author it, but on Crux commissioned a report a year ago that looked at a whole series of underground mines operating in Canada.
Yep.
That's Canadian mines. And the conclusions of that were that the operating costs per ton were, if you're doing anything less than 50,000 tons per month, was going to be north of $150 a ton, but it's more likely to be in the $100 to $150 per ton. And then with sustaining capex on top, you kind of look at the report came out and said that it was going to cost about $200 to $250 per ton to run an underground mine in Canada.
I have to admit, I have not read that report.
No,
there are a whole bunch of different types of underground mines here. The ones that are getting more and more popular are the bulk tonnage underground mines. And effectively, yeah, you seek to haul in the north of 5,000 tons per day, and you seek to produce 100 to 120,000 ounces per year. Otherwise, yeah, your basic, your basic costs offset. You have to offset your basic cost of capex, opex, and sustaining cap and all that.
So more than 5,000 tons per day is, depending on how many days a month you work, it's anywhere between 100 and 150,000 tons per month.
Yeah, so we have a 21 million ton deposit.
Yeah,
that I think some of the internal work is looking to evacuate over a 12-year period, and so far the math works, and that's why we launched the PEA. Obviously, what favors this project a lot is there are several mills along the highway, and so we've already understood that toll milling, avoid building a new mill and a new tailings impoundment site, is going to be one secret to success. But you always want to understand how much, what are the metrics to building your own mill and your own tailings impoundment site. But I foresee that in maybe 3 to 5 or 7 years from now, it's just an evolution. The Ministry of Environment is going to favor a scenario where you're not building a new environmental scar. And additionally, I fear that there is a certain amount or level of manpower in the area. And if you're building your own mill and you're attracting new workers, you're just going to be poaching more from other sites. It's economies of scale, I think, the whole thing.
Okay, so you're going to be guiding your consultants to target quite a large mine, kind of a 6,000 ton per day operation, to make sure you've got the economies of scale and a trucking option. So that's going to be your first study option, really. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And so additionally, like I was saying before, we also ran some ore sorting tests, and this stuff can really be sorted, and you could basically reduce the stuff that you'd be sending to the mill by half. So therefore reducing the trucking costs and the milling costs. And in doing so, you're upgrading it by about 170% of what you've taken from and right up at surface. So will it work? There are trade-offs to sorting at surface. Normally you want to put your ore sorter underground and not have to transport your up and down the shaft. But I mean, that's out of my hands, and I'm not an engineer. So we have hired a group of engineers to oversee or chaperone the people that are running it, and simply to get, have those people challenge themselves and run the various scenarios, and continue to make or generate value with the Chimo Mine project. And once it's published, they'll have its own recommendations and actions to be taken. Do we want to go back and re-drill the inferred stuff to flip it into indicated and then move on to pre-feasibility? Do we want to go back and drill the lens that seems to be to occur between the east and the central zone, and thereby generating even more ounces? Listen, it's open for, once the PEA hits the wire, then we'll already have seen and we'll start engineering around that as well.
And remind me the ore sorting. Is it XRF? Is it a gravity? And what size did you kind of crush it down to? So are you talking kind of primary crusher, secondary crusher, and then sorting it out from there? Or
if I recall, there's optical sorting on the core stuff, and there was XRF sorting, and the conclusions that we ground it down to, I don't remember the exact size, but the more you grind, obviously the more cost you incur. So one of the conclusions is there was trial and error to be done on that end, and to realize even more gains on the concentration, especially in the sulfide rich component, where there's only there's a lot of gold, high grade gold in the quartz and the silica component, but the majority of the gold is found in the selvage itself, where there's moderate to low grade gold in arsenopyrite rich basalt and andesite, non-refractory.
So not on the lattice, but on the fractures. Yep. Okay, good. Lots to process there.
Lots to work for in 2022. The 2022 will be a really aggressive start for us, because obviously we're going to be supervising a drill program in the Urbain-Barry area, just south of Chapet, and then we're also going to be monitoring the advances of the PEA, and then adjusting to the market situation there.
And when do you think? What's your timeline for the PEA? What are you thinking? How long is it going to take?
I was told to answer Q1 2022.
Well, that's quite punchy. That's quite.
We have the advantage of having accelerated the in-house engineering while we're doing the resource work, and so right now the challenge is basically just looking at the various scenarios. I believe they could get the work done earlier, but I also believe that if you create an expectancy with a precise date and they fall short, people are just going to get angry, and they do anyway. So
the angry population of mining investors. Benchmarking. I'd love to see some benchmarking in that PEA, because this Crux report that came out, whatever it was, in March or February earlier this year, it used some real world examples of other underground operations in Canada, which indicate to me that you're going to struggle below 4 grams a ton. And with your body at 2.9 grams a ton, I've only got the information that I can see in that report. So
fortunately for us, we do have local mines that are operating at lower grades. And you saw Yamana buy Monarch's deposit, Wazamak, and they're going to be gunning for the 3-grammer. So, I mean, there are modern examples. The Chimo mine, as I said, is a past producer. When they shut this thing down in 1997, the head grade was 3.8, and they had stumbled on bulk mining underground, so to speak. Even though they weren't operating 7 days a week and a full 300 days per year. The price of gold was $400 Canadian. They were only hauling 1,200 tons per day. So. And they had only recently brought on site a mill, and it wasn't perfectly tweaked for the Chimo type ore. Now you're looking at a whole totally different ecosystem or economic background. Gold is north of 2,200 Canadian. You had some significant advances in metallurgy and mining techniques in the last 25 years. These can be beneficially applied to the Chimo situation.
Well, I look forward to the results of the PEA. I remember very clearly. I had just joined HSBC as an analyst in 1997. I joined in September 97, and in October the gold price went below $300 US, and it stayed there for over 5 years. And so that was my introduction to the world of the financial markets. But before that, I'd worked insulated from metal prices when I was a young geologist with Rio Tinto, but that's another story.
Well, today you're looking at sophisticated mechanization of mines underground, and you have a continuum between geologists, engineers, and metallurgists now that are I think the rapport is a lot closer than it used to be, and all things that could benefit the Chimo mine project.
Okay, well, I really look forward to seeing the PEA when it comes out, hopefully sometime in Q1.
And hopefully we'll have an interview on that, and I'll be all smiles.
And I'll be really delighted if you've got all the local benchmarking figures from the other.
I'll look into your report that was commissioned by Crux. But again, I think it's proper to, if we're considering underground operations, that we consider them very local to the Abitibi, Ontario and Quebec side, with the manpower costs and the electrical costs and everything. Not comparing it to something out in BC. It's not.
Yeah, and of course, one of the advantages of Quebec is low power costs.
Yeah, and the proactive fiscal approach that Quebec has of providing appropriate, well-placed tax holidays in the very difficult, first few years of a mine, and these things could actually be mathed into the scenarios, Q1 2022 will be a good start for us, I believe.
You've been beaten up you've been smacked over the head with the share price in the last couple of months, and companies need to demonstrate growth, and they need to demonstrate increased value per ton. And if you've got the growth potential through Fenton, and you've got the value per ton possibility through Chimo, great stuff.
Absolutely. Listen, that's in the last 10 years. The September to November was always a very difficult, period for us. Tax loss selling, and in the recent 2 to 3 weeks, we had an institution bail over 7 million shares. So that was a particular situation, and so we're going to weather that storm. We have $6.3 million in the bank. We have a very robust project in Chimo. We have a very exciting new adventure in Fenton, and onwards. We're always looking to create value and avoid the mistake of I believe, of the information drop that we put our shareholders through in 2021. we're looking to be a lot more aggressive and dynamic in 2022.
Cool. Wonderful. Before I let you go, sorry, we're so close to wrapping up. You've mentioned in the past M&A. Am I right in thinking that now your focus is not on M&A, and if it comes, it's fortuitous, but you're actually just going to concentrate on controlling your own destiny through driving value through China?
The right answer to that is that it's not that we're not focused on M&A. It's just that finally we are absolutely prepared if it comes around. And we won't be scrambling for, we know the value of our project. We have money in the bank, so we're able to more calmly face that situation if it happens. And we're not necessarily calling the shots there, right? So we're more prepared for the M&A, and if it happens, and we hope it happens, because we're not looking to develop this ourselves. If a junior company today says it's going to build a mine here in Val d'Or, well, it's a tall order because they have to find the personnel, they have to find the capital. The situation is not easy. So yeah, we're open for it and we're more prepared for it.
Good. On that note, I'm done on my questions. I look forward to catching up in the months ahead. Philippe, thank you very much.
Thank you, Merlin. Have a nice day.
You too.